full of stats.
Engage Vernon.
I'm your new wingman.
We will win because we have.
Welcome to CommLink.
Hello and welcome back to the CommLink Podcast. I'm Stubb and I'm joined today by Silvius. How's it going?
I'm good. Excited for the holidays.
Yeah, me too. Which is coming up quick.
Yeah.
We got Christmas on this coming Monday from time of recording. So it's coming up really fast. Lots of plans, traveling around, all that good stuff. But yeah, we're here back to talk more Star Citizen, wrapping up 2023 as we look ahead to 2024. So we've got a few items to talk about on the agenda for today. We're going to talk a little bit about 322, the Luminalia event. We're going to talk about also what Jared started to tease out in a little bit more detail on last week's Inside Star Citizen episode. We talked about it a little bit last week with Captain Skyrider. Shout out again for coming onto the podcast. But we'll take a little deeper dive into that today as well, and we'll see what else comes up during the course of conversation. But should be a good episode this week. Looking forward to it.
What do you think Chris is going to leave under the tree? Pyro? Think he's leaving Pyro?
That would be nice. I would like a preview channel running for longer than a weekend under the tree. I would like a nice week-long or 2-week-long preview channel. No weird hours going on, just 24/7 for a week or two. Kind of like a PTU, you know.
Since you mention it, they are running the replication layer test on the preview channel right now, which I was a little surprised of. I didn't think we were going to get any testing after that 322 patch dropped the other day. I thought they were going to throw that out there and then everybody was going for the holidays, but yeah, it looks like they're still testing stuff right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, so the way Jared worded things regarding the preview channel next year on last week's Inside Star Citizen, it did sound like it wasn't coming back until 2024. Because he only talked about the preview channel in regards to next year. There was no mention of, oh yeah, and we're going to have another one or two before the end of this year as well. There wasn't any of that. So it was all 2024 talk. So, but here we are with another preview channel with replication layer, like you were just saying. Also, one thing too that I wanted to point out, just in case anybody's listening that plays the game with the display code showing, you know, when you go into the console, you do the R_display tab, hit 2, and then you got all of your information popped up there in the top right corner. People have noticed, I guess, that on live servers, it will say it's something like it's like server merging true or server merging false or something to that effect with the replication layer going on. If it is false, that's okay. That just means you're on the live server. It's not supposed to be turned on. If it's true, it should be showing as true in the preview channel. So, but some people playing in the live environment only have noticed that pop up as well. And so there were some people going, wait, what? Are we supposed to have it right now on live? The answer is no. No, that's just there for, you know, when people record videos and such to report issues. That way it's more clear, or even more clear, harder to confuse where these bugs are showing up, right? Whether this was on the preview channel or on a live server. So just wanted to throw that tidbit out there. But yeah, the preview channel going on. I'm hoping that over the course of Christmas and going into the new year, we'll continue to have some opportunities to play around on the preview channel, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, but that's what I would like from Chris.
It would be nice if they dropped a little Pyro play test to leave everybody with over the holidays. But the way Jared worded it last week in ISC, I think we're not going to see. I guess they're testing the replication layer still, but I don't know if we're going to see Pyro again until 2024.
Yeah, and maybe not. But what do you think Chris is going to leave under the tree this year?
The Merchant Man, buddy.
The Merchant Man. Don't tease you like that.
You're gonna log in Christmas Day, and it's gonna be right there in your hanger.
Playing with my emotions right now. You know what you're doing. God, I would love that. But yeah, that's not going to be this Christmas. Maybe next Christmas. But yeah, I'm not even really hoping for that at this point.
Yeah, I don't think we have no more surprises this year as far as I'm thinking anyway. So
Yeah, and let's not get greedy, right? We are finishing out this year very strongly with the game. Of course, any other nice surprises would be welcome, but I'm not actually expecting any sort of like last minute, like on December 27th or whatever, something major changes, and then they're like, all right, peace out, see you, in 3 weeks or whatever. Like, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. But 322 is live right now, and I understand you played some of it.
a little bit, not much. I've played a little
What'd
bit
you
of
get into?
the Arena Commander Master Mode.
Yep.
Tried out the Buccaneer, the Super Hornets in there too. Flew both of those a little bit.
How are you feeling about master modes right now? Like, now that you've got a little bit more hands-on experience with it.
I don't know how to feel about it because I'm not like a huge combat pilot. So
Yeah.
I think it's okay. Like what they have now, obviously it needs to be worked on a little bit, but just having people not going like full speed backwards is a good thing to have going on.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of the fights being way closer. The mode was like it was the free flight, I think. No, it was the team battle. And you load into just a random team. So it was usually like 2-on-1 or 3-on-1, just the way the fights were going. So it was hard to judge really because I think I only got like one or two like 1-on-1 fights before I got like third partied or whatever. So it was kind of hard to tell, but overall I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I played a little bit more with it actually. Just before we started to record, I was doing some of the I think it's squadron battle, or it's team deathmatch basically, right? But in your ships, and yeah, man, the fights feel way more intense now. Like super up close, you're really like you're staying in each other's face a lot more. Everything is it just feels more aggro now. There's way less jousting happening or people being able to just scoot off in a blink of an eye or whatever and get out of the fight. Instead, you're able to maintain that distance a lot easier with people, and you can still escape and pull your way out of dogfights. It's not impossible now by any means, but you gotta work for it more, and you gotta be more strategic about it. So, and I like that. I like that. The dogfights are feeling more in your face. But they'll continue to iterate on it. But as of right now, I already like it more than the current combat system on the live servers. So
yeah, for sure, it's a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, happy to see it. And the lobby that I was playing in earlier, I got a couple rounds in and they were popping off pretty well, but we also had multiple moments where teams were noticeably unbalanced, right? Not talking about one team having like one or two players more than the other team, but a handful more players. So hopefully over time, sort of matchmaking stuff gets sorted out as well, and maybe they add in something to help rebalance the match while it's still active a little bit more efficiently. But overall, still a fun experience. And that's honestly, that's about all that I've really experienced with 322. I logged in to the PU as well earlier today, but that was just to go ahead, get a character and log into a landing zone to play later, and to unlock the friends list and all that stuff.
How'd you like that new hair?
Did
you spend hours looking at your character?
I spent so much time, and then I went and after I finally made my character, after about an hour and a half or so of character creation, I went to the Galactopedia and then started to go into the deep lore of all the hair follicle tech that's actually going to go online with Star Hair 2.0 in 2027. So stay on the lookout for that, because you're about to be able to see every last strand, and your poor CPU is not ready for it.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, no. So I literally clicked on, I think it was the Mel body or whatever, clicked, got the default face or whatever, just click. Okay, I'm in the game. So
Yeah.
didn't change anything. But I logged into the new Babbage or whatever, so I'll be ready for some play sessions, but I didn't actually do anything in the verse. It was all Arena Commander today, really. So, and then also I logged into the RSI website and redeemed my Luminalia rewards up to the current day, and was happy to see that I could retroactively claim previous days. I was a little concerned because I had been logging in. I knew the days were passing by. I was like, crap, I just missed that thing, and this Pico shirt, and whatever else. And then I was very relieved to see, no, I can still click on these cards and redeem them. So for anybody else listening that wants the Luminalia event gifts, but you've not redeemed them yet, as of right now, you can still log in and get all of the previous days rewards, as well as today's.
Yeah, that was a really good call, letting people do that if they miss a day or something. So I'm not sure
especially
when,
this time of year, people's schedules are so crazy,
Yeah, I'm not sure
work
when
with
the
people a little.
actual date will be that you can't claim them anymore, but I want to say Luminalia runs all the way through December. I haven't checked specific dates, but yeah, so you should have plenty of time to grab those up if you haven't gotten them yet.
Yeah, and then also during Luminalia, and I was just talking to Arena Commander. They posted that the community team's going to be jumping into various Arena Commander modes during Luminalia. So if you manage to find your way into a lobby against somebody from the community team, and if you place in the top 3, you'll win a standalone Origin X1 Force with LTI. And then if they put in some fine print stuff, right? If it's one of the CIG members that's in top 3, they get excluded.
Right.
And I believe you can only win once. if I'm not
Probably.
mistaken.
Yeah.
So, but still pretty cool. So if you do happen to check out some Arena Commander, there's a chance you'll get into a game with somebody from CIG, and you'll maybe be able to win a brand new X1 with LTI, which is very nice.
If you're super interested in it, they do have specific times listed on the CommLink post or the Spectrum post that they made the announcement on. So I didn't put it in our notes here to read out, but there are, I think it's every day, the 15th through the 22nd, they're doing an event almost every day, and they do like 3 rounds after that starts. So if you're really interested in trying to get that X1, you can go look up the times and get in there exactly when they're trying to run those.
Yeah, and if you win, let us know in the comments below. Also, there's a greeting card contest happening with Luminalia as well. Have you entered yet, Silvius?
Nah, they do that every year, and I can never come up with a good enough screenshot to want to put in the contest. But I've seen some pretty good ones come out of the contest in years past. So
Maybe
always check that out.
Maybe that could be a New Year's resolution for you next year. Is you're gonna commit to the greeting card contest this time.
Yeah, maybe.
Gonna brainstorm all year long, baby. Bring that thing home. Putting a CommLink on the map, one greeting card at a time. Let's see. A little bit more with Arena Commander, and then for those listening, I promise I'll shut up about it for the most part. I'm really excited about where Arena Commander's at. Okay, it's not been great the past few years, so I know a lot of you don't care about Arena Commander, and that's fine, but some of us are excited. So their experimental mode schedule, currently running until December 24th. They've got Battle Royale. Then from the 24th to the 31st, they've got Team Tank Battle. December 31st to January 7th, they've got Master Modes Duel. And from January 7th to the 14th, they've got Single Weapon Elimination with the AO3 Sniper Rifle and Tank Royale. So for those of you who are partaking, there's a pretty nice schedule for us. So I'm looking forward to spending more time with Arena Commander. And that single weapon elimination with the sniper sounds interesting, especially considering how, for the most part, there are some open areas and some FPS maps in the game, but for the most part, it's fairly, like, I would say, like, close to mid-range combat. So with everybody running around with snipers, that should be interesting, and a lot of fun. Fingers crossed. So I'll be sure to check that out come January. So, have you been thinking any more about maybe checking out the team battles again once they go live? Maybe we can jump into some rounds.
Yeah, I like those the tank battles especially. That was pretty cool because,
Yeah.
I like the idea of ground vehicles and everything in Star Citizen, but the times you get to use them is few and far between. So getting a chance to actually like get in the tank and get some practice with it without having to load it up and then take it somewhere and then have somebody else to fight and then they die, and Arena Commander allows you to kind of test these things without the consequences of the persistent universe. So yeah, I definitely want to check out some of those the team tank battle, and that single weapon elimination sounds fun too. I'll have to try that out.
Yeah, that mode I've enjoyed when it's working properly and my gun's firing. But yeah, doing it with the sniper seems like a lot of good fun to be had. So also I wanted to mention one last thing with Arena Commander. For anybody listening that for whatever reason you have not even jumped into Arena Commander, you just don't have any interest, at least let me frame it this way. If you need a Star Citizen fix, but you have limited time, so you've only got half an hour or an hour to play, it's a great way to get that a little bit of Star Citizen action in a shorter time window, right? So maybe something to consider. But moving on, this week, so we're in the time of year, right? Moving into the holidays, and CIG, they like to take a break as if they've been working all year or something like that. And so things get a little bit quiet on the socials, especially regarding Inside Star Citizen and Star Citizen Live. So we will not have either of those this week. And I don't think for the rest of the year, right? That's the same is true for next week as well. No ISC, no SEL.
Yeah, I think it's usually like 2 or 3 weeks into January before they post a new one.
Yeah, I was thinking like second or third week of the month.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So we don't have any of that to look forward to this week. But if you'll recall on last week's episode of Inside Star Citizen, Jared brought up a host of things for us to look forward to. So while we've had our last ISC for the year, they left on a really exciting note. So, and again, for those of you that are returning and listened to last week's episode, we touched on this a bit with Captain Skyrider, but we're going to allow ourselves the time to really take a little extra time to conversate about these items, right? So I guess we'll just go through these one at a time, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, and so all of this stuff we're about to talk about, for anybody that didn't watch the ISC last week, which if you're here listening to this, I'm sure you did. But in the last half of the ISC, he said all of these things that we're about to talk about are targeted to come out by Q2, Q3, summer of next year is when they're tentatively going to be released, or before in the Q1 patch if they can. But he didn't differentiate which one of these will be Q1, Q2, whatever. But all of it, he said all of it should be in by the summer.
Yeah. So yeah, that is one thing to keep in mind, right? He was a little vague. He gave us that window of first half of the year, but he wasn't specific on which features coming in which update. So other than, we know Pyro's 4.0, but as far as anything else that's 3 point whatever, who knows? So first up, we have master modes, which we just talked about a bit in regards to Arena Commander. But this is talking about master modes coming to Star Citizen at large, right?
In the
And no longer
PU.
just limited to Arena Commander, but yes, actually being applied to PU. And I don't think that it can be understated that this is going to be a significant change for uh, the game's combat.
Yeah.
So
This is one of those
mean-
things that I could definitely see being summer release if they get it in, because we have four vehicles right now testing in master modes: the Gladius,
Yep.
Super Hornet, Buccaneer,
Warden.
and the Warden. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a warden giving me a hard time earlier. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it. So, yeah, I could see it maybe being closer to the back half of the first half of next year, right? Closer to summer for master modes. But again, for anybody that's not checked it out yet, in the experimental modes, do yourself a favor and at least try out a round of squadron battle or whatever, because you'll immediately notice the difference, right? It's still Star Citizen, right? I didn't sit down with it the first time and be like, this feels like a whole completely different game, but it does feel like a significantly different game in regards to how we strategize our combat in flight. And for instance, we were talking earlier, like that distance has really been closed at this point. Your average dogfight is much closer in master modes than it is in the current flight model in the game. So, whether you're somebody who actively PvPs, it's going to affect you. Whether you are someone who only does PvE combat, it's going to affect you. Whether you are someone who is mining, has no interest in combat whatsoever, but when the time comes that you need to defend yourself, this is going to affect you, right? So it is a fundamental shift in combat. And I think that this is going to be one of the features I'm looking forward to the most. I don't think I'm going to become some sort of PvP god after master modes comes out, but I am looking forward to actively trying to, we've talked about this since we've known master modes was on the horizon, that we could really grind it out and get really good at PvP right now. But since so much is going to change, and maybe it's a little defeatist, but it's kind of like, what's the point in getting really good at the current combat system?
Right. I mean, I guess you're like, your fundamentals, like the basics of flight and everything, is still going to be the same. But like how right now tricording is a very powerful way to control your ship in the PU. But with master modes, they've almost, not quite, but almost eliminated tricording. So it's you have to, fight in a little bit of a different way, which I haven't quite figured out yet. Probably be another one of those things where we have to sit down with Moist and teach us how to not suck again. But yeah, that. It's definitely an interesting change, especially to the PU once you have, cargo ships and mining ships and stuff that have to think about this navigation mode versus combat mode, and how, when and where to switch between those. And we have no idea how that, we have a little bit of an idea, but we don't know how that's going to affect traders and people of that nature once it gets moved over to the PU.
Yeah, that's important to note too, right? Like, master modes is being tested right now, but it's in very closed environments, right? You can only go so far in those Arena Commander maps. They're sizable, but it's not like the PU where you can just quantum jump away or whatever. So you're still within boundaries, right? You're still trapped together, and everybody is in a combat ship. So, yeah. Anything else on master modes?
I got nothing.
Yeah. Huge change though coming to the game at some point in the first half of next year. So, and again, if you haven't checked it out on Arena Commander experimental modes, do yourself the favor and at least get a taste of it, because it's different. It's worthwhile, and it's going to be coming to the PU regardless, right? So might as well maybe get a little familiar with it now. Persistent hangers next up on the menu for 2024. Are you looking forward to having persistent hangers?
Very much so. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to have a base of operation, basically.
Yeah.
And now it's, you have the magic inventory where everything is just, there. And one thing that I not struggle with, but would like to see change, which I think it's going to change with the persistent hangers, is like right now, if you have a set of armor all geared out, you have your weapons on there, you have your attachments on your weapons, you have your med pins, etc., etc. If you drag that over to your inventory, it takes everything attached with it, but you don't know. So if you have 3 of the same bags, now you don't know which bag your weapons are attached to.
Yeah.
So having a hanger with different size boxes where I can put all my armor in one, I can have one with my setup gear ready to go, like a backup set, just having that more organized space and something to come back to keep all your, shit you find out in the verse, your relics, your stuff you just want to hold on to, cargo you want to deal with later. I think it's going to be a really cool thing to have.
Yeah, I agree. Having your own little sort of base of operations, like we were talking about. Before we started record, we very briefly mentioned a game that we've played in early access. It's recently gone full release, Ready or Not, and I was immediately thinking of like the locker room area or whatever in that game, where you go in and before you do the mission, you're picking what kind of armor you want, you're picking out your weapon, your attachments, all that stuff. So similar sort of concept, right? We're going to have our own place to where we can go, but we can actually customize in Star Citizen the layout of and gear up for whatever the task at hand is. That's one of those things where it adds a huge layer, I think, of immersion to the game. And also just sounds really cool as well.
Yeah.
So,
and being able to pull up your ground vehicles from there, load them right in the hangar, just a bunch of stuff is going to change with it. And we were talking about it with Skyrider last week. I think the replication layer is going to have to be finished before we get these persistent hangars, because it seems like that they were talking about when you go into the hangar, you're on your own server, and to me that sounds like replication layer tech. Yeah. So we could get these in Q1, but I think that all depends on how fast the development of replication layer goes over the holidays and stuff here.
It would be a really great way to kick off 2024, though, if it was in the Q1 patch.
Yeah.
It'd be so cool.
No more 30Ks and persistent hangers? Hell yeah.
Yeah. But, it'll be nice to have a place to put the little knickknacks that have been added to the accounts over the years to, put little decorations around or whatever if you want to. Then we've got, I'm sorry, anything else on persistent hangers before we move on?
I don't think so.
All right, so FPS combat improvements, reloading, wear, and misfires. So I know I've said before, this is something that I'm looking forward to. I think that it makes sense to add to the game, right? Since we're now coming into a point with Star Citizen where engineering gameplay is going to be coming online, and we're going to have to fix our stuff, and we're going to have to maintain things more than we currently have, where, for years and years, basically you would, if your ship took damage or whatever, you would fly back to a station and repair, and hopefully the repair button worked in your mobiGlas, and then you were back on your way, right? But things are going to get more nuanced and more intricate, and I think this sort of mirrors what's happening with our ships. Is now going to be happening with our hand weapons, our handguns, our rifles, and our shotguns, and everything else, all the FPS weapons. And I like that sort of parallel that's happening to where you are going to have to take care of your stuff. Again, I know we've mentioned this before. It's all about the balancing, right? How much we're going to have to maintain things. Like, how often am I going to have to clean my gun to make sure that's not jamming on me in the middle of a gunfight every time, or commonly. And you want to make sure that your stuff's not jamming and it's working, but you also want to make sure that the players aren't constantly having to manage that stuff. It's a balancing act, and I'm really in a state of mind where I am not envious of the devs that have to figure all of that balancing out. Like,
Yeah.
how often do you have to do these tasks where you're still maintaining momentum and enjoyment and fun in the game, but
I think
sorry,
I think DayZ does a good job of it.
they do. Yeah, I'd maybe say DayZ slightly goes a little bit further than where I would want Star Citizen to go, mostly
I agree.
like specifically like when it comes to ammo. And thankfully it doesn't seem like they're going in the one bullet at a time into a fresh mag route that DayZ went. But they are making some changes to reloading, where things are just more efficient, right? Being able to pull a magazine out of your backpack is a huge change within itself. Whereas, if you ran out of mags on your armor, you were just SOL at that point. But now you can go into some reserves. And then you can combine mags as well, right? With the update that's coming.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure that was stated at CitizenCon. If we're wrong, let us know in the comments below. But yeah, these things are I think really important to help give the game even more of a distinct feel. And I think the balancing that they do with these systems is going to have just a huge impact on the perception of the game. It's going to help give it its own identity. I think how, as they continue on to iterate on weapons and weapon systems to make it feel like when you play this, even if it's just doing a bunker or something, you're playing Star Citizen, and it's not Halo, or it's not Call of Duty, or it's not pick whatever other big popular shooter out there, to where even in this regard it feels unique. And so I hope they don't just copy and paste what other games have done with their survival mechanics as well. Even when it comes to things like the guns. I'm rambling. I won't shut up about weapons for a moment.
Yeah, as long as the wear and tear is not overdone, and one thing I don't like about DayZ is you can never repair your gun to pristine. So I'm hoping, once you use that gun a little bit, there's maybe you have like field repair where it doesn't get back to perfect, but if you take it to a station or like somewhere that's known to repair guns, or you can get it back to that pristine state.
Yeah, different tiers of repairing the gun, right? So some things you could do by hand, as if you were like, brushing out a barrel or whatever, just cleaning it up a little bit. Or maybe it's something where you need some sort of workbench or whatever to do a full repair.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, so we'll see how they do it.
Yeah. I could see them adding those different layers to it. Some repair jobs need higher end equipment or more
yeah, I think they're moving that way with like components
skill
and stuff anyway, so hopefully the FPS stuff will follow suit.
Yeah, hopefully so. And then also, while we're talking about guns in the game, we should talk updated scopes and the dynamic crosshair, and then we'll circle back to EVA. But the updated scopes, again, if you didn't see the footage that they showed off at CitizenCon, it looks really good. It looks so good. It is kind of a visual thing that you really need to kind of see to understand what we're talking about. But essentially, scopes are going to just act more realistically in the game. Because in real life, if you've never used a scope on a rifle or anything, it's not like in your typical video game to where you right click and then boom, you've got this picture perfect look through the scope. There's all sorts of different factors that can influence your vision that you're seeing through the scope, and that's coming to Star Citizen in a more realistic way, instead of it being more like cartoony video game scopes. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Think more squad. Think more mill sim scopes.
Yeah, I noticed. I don't use sniper rifles very often, but I used one during the Siege of Orison a week or two ago. And when you zoom in, it's just like you have the little, round part of the scope, and then everything around it is just black.
Yeah.
It's like your whole screen just goes black except for the little hole of the scope. So I think that's going away too, where, you'll be looking down the scope, but you'll still have like so you can still see your surroundings like blurry probably, but it won't just be a complete like black screen how it is now. So that'll be a really big improvement for sniper rifles.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even you want that little bit of, even if it's like blurry peripheral vision, like in real life, it's not just total darkness around your eyeball when you're looking through a scope, unless like you've really got that thing jammed against your eye, which you shouldn't be doing. So just making it more realistic. And also the dynamic crosshair, I think, is exciting too. Yeah, again, it's not something that is the flashiest update necessarily, but I think overall it is going to be a positive for the FPS experience.
Yeah, I feel like it's something people are going to, at a time of development where they would expect everything in the game, they'd be like, where's the crosshair at, or whatever. So yeah, it's needed, needs to be added.
And for anyone that doesn't recall, basically the dynamic crosshair is going to make it where your crosshair is pointing in the game is where the barrel of your gun is pointing, right? So
yeah, it's not center of your screen anymore.
Yeah, that's it in its most simple terms. The new dynamic crosshair is where the gun is actually pointing, not dead center of the screen all the time.
Right.
And then let's see. We've also got charge and drain guns as well. Anything to say on those?
I guess that's talking about I can't think of the name of it, but the like bolt action sniper rifle that charges up and then you shoot it or whatever.
Yep.
I don't know if that's like entirely a new type of guns coming in, or if it's like a battery drain. I'd have to go back and check on that.
Yeah, I remember it being presented like it was a new weapon type. But
yeah, I think you're right.
They didn't go into like a lot of specifics, right? It was a little vague.
Yeah,
but I think there was some video footage, if I recall.
There was a lot of CitizenCon video footage that it all blurs together at this point.
Yeah, keep in mind, folks, it's like over 10 hours of footage. There's a lot of stuff. But another big thing that I know that we are both really hyped for is the updated EVA that's also coming first half of next year.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice quality of life update just for, you EVA a lot in this game, and that's one of those little bugs that you try and introduce someone new to the game, and they get out of your ship and they do a 360 and their arms are spinning around in circles or whatever, or they try and land back on your ship and face plant and glitch into your ramp for 3 to 4 minutes while you try and get them out of it. So yeah, just having that issue taking away, and smoothing out the EVA, I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, and it's going to be one of those, again, another one of those quality of life changes that is going to impact everybody. Doesn't matter what kind of player you are. Are you combat? Cool. Are you doing trade? Cool. You doing salvaging or mining? Cool. You're going to EVA at some point, regardless of the gameplay loop. So really happy to see that coming. And the animations that they were showing at CitizenCon look so good. Like the way people were crawling against surfaces in EVA. I thought it looked really great. And it just all looked really smooth. Like, part of me is going to miss all the jank of like floating into, like, say the back of somebody's Cuddy Black or whatever, and then you get to that ramp and then your character just starts to go haywire. But at the same time, it's nice to see that EVA is finally getting some love and that things are going to be hopefully working better. So it looks so good. It looks so good. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
I think I remember one of my favorite clips from when you used to stream is when we stole that Big Benny's from the Kovalek station, and we put it on the Corsair and set it down all nice and neat, and then I'm coming in and almost to land, and then my character just freaks out and starts clipping through the ramp and everything. It was good times.
Yeah, it just goes crazy. Yeah.
I will miss that a little bit.
Yeah. Those are they're fun, but at the same time, when you're playing very often, it will also wear on your nerves too.
Yeah.
So we need to get that new system in there, and it's on the way. I think, depending on, obviously what CIG actually has planned, but to me, it seems like something that could be a Q1 update. Like, I don't think you need like replication layer or any of that other stuff for the new EVA system. So depending on how polished it is, I think we could see this one with the first update of the new year.
Yeah, that and maybe those FPS updates too, since we've already seen a few guns touched on in 322. Like the P4 was updated a little bit. LMG ammo was changed some, so they've got a few of those changes in already, but obviously not the wear and misfires and stuff like that.
We've also got the visor and lens system. I don't know shit about this one. I'm just going to be honest with everybody. Like, updated visor UI. I don't know.
Yeah, we're. I don't know about that one. Hey, I just copied and pasted this list out of the Pipeline Discord, and I was like, well, let's talk about it. So I didn't even go over it beforehand. The visor and lens system is maybe something with helmets. I don't know. If you know, let us know in the comments, because we are at a loss.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably something to do with helmet UI, but yeah, definitely let us know. Updated loot screen. We do know about this, and it looks real good.
That quick loot system. Yeah.
Quick loot looks really good. It's easy to forget, I think. We've not really had looting all that long in Star Citizen. But for the amount of time that we have, it's not been the best. Everybody's had some issue with the looting system in one way or another. So again, another big quality of life that is going to impact every type of player. So really happy to see this make its way in. And whoever led the charge on this did, from everything that I saw at CitizenCon, an excellent job. Everything looks really intuitive and clean, and it just looks like leaps and bounds better than the current loot screens and menus.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. And just being able to go up and pick and choose a few things when you're quick looting instead of the jank system we have now, where you have to go up and hold F and make sure you click on the loot button after you wiggle your mouse around a little bit, and then the inventory loading's a little slow sometimes, and it'll just be a nice little update.
Yeah, just them simplifying things, making it more streamlined. Another thing that goes right into that is the new interaction system that also is supposed to be coming first half of next year, right? That's another great example of just cleaning up the way we play the game, and making things more efficient and usable,
Yeah, it looked really good when they showed it off at CitizenCon.
Yeah. So, and that also included things like the F button flashing on the screen if you need to be tapping it, that sort of thing. Also, there was a reference to new Moby Glass apps coming. I don't know much about these. I know they've been mentioned, but I think really just kind of vaguely, right? Like they've not gone into hyper specifics of the new apps.
Yeah, I feel like there's two they mentioned recently, like a shopping app maybe,
Okay.
and I can't remember what the other one was, but I feel like somewhere in all the information I gather on Star Citizen, it was mentioned somewhere, but I can't remember it right now.
Also, more is being added to new character customization as well. This I feel like we have talked to death, but they're going to continue to update how we make our characters, and it does, from what they've shown us, it all looks good.
I
I'll
think
try
that
not to.
that next update's going to bring where you can save your character after you create them.
Yeah.
So, now when we get a patch, you won't have to go through and, click through whatever face you want, pick your hair, do all that stuff. You can take the time to make your character and then save it, and then you won't have to do it again. So that will be nice where we don't have to go through that process anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Also the reworked Moby Glass and Star Map for next year. Both huge, right? People have had issues with the Moby Glass. We've certainly all had issues with Star Map. These are a couple of updates that we have been talking about years needing at this point. And supposedly, finally next year, first half. Do you think that this is something that we maybe also see Q1, or is this maybe more of a Q2, Q3 update? I'm really hoping for Q1, but I think everybody is.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm really hoping for Q1, but with the star map, I have a feeling they might hold it off until 4.0, with the new system and moving everything with the jump points and all of that. I mean, I could see them maybe pushing it before then, but I don't know. I just have a feeling that that's something that might come with 4.0 and the new having to have two systems there on the star map and all of that coming together. So hopefully it comes in Q1, but we'll see.
Yeah, my fingers are crossed. And then, just as far as the Moby Glass stuff goes, I don't have as many complaints with it as I do the star map, but
Yeah,
kind of tired of how it looks currently in the game.
It's usable, but it definitely looks a little outdated, and it's still using building blocks, I believe. So they definitely need to update it to some of that newer looking UI they've been showing off. And if I'm not mistaken, they showed off a little bit of it at CitizenCon, and the CitizenCon last year. They showed it off a little bit, and I think it looked a little bit different. Now, I don't know if that was like a civilian Moby Glass versus like a Squadron 42, like military version or something like that. So we might get different versions of like your home screen. Different apps might look different for different users or something. So that all seems really cool, and hopefully it comes with the update.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, another big item, I think, distribution centers coming next year, first half. Distribution centers, they've talked about they're going to be like new hubs for all sorts of gameplay, content, and social interactions. I believe they're going to have landing zones as well. So they're a big update coming. It's going to be nice to have more locations on planet surfaces and moons to land. I'm looking forward to that, because that's one thing that I keep thinking about with Star Citizen. It's kind of weird. Feeling like on some planets there's really only one major place that you can land, and these aren't going to be cities or anything like that. Like there's not going to be suddenly 5 or 6 other cities on Microtech like New Babbage or anything. They're like bunkers on steroids, more like. But it is nice to have more zones because or more landing zones. Just 'cause it bothers me that the options are so limited to land and repair and to refuel. Like we've got these entire huge planets and just
Yeah,
so few choices for that stuff.
they do feel a little, ab- not abandoned because you obviously have like the large cities and stuff. But other than that, you have like, your outpost, your Shubin mining facilities or whatever. But that's just a handful of buildings with like one guy there.
Yeah.
So like, is everybody on the planet living in Loreville? So
Right.
It is a little strange that there's no. I understand why at this point in development, especially why there's no towns or small cities, whatever. But yeah, hopefully the distribution centers help kind of flesh out the worlds a little bit more and make them feel a little bit more lived in, I guess. Because that has always been a thing for me. Like it doesn't. It's not like a game breaking thing or like something I'm not going to play the game because of, but it is kind of weird because, you think about, North America, you have major cities and then you have small towns and you have rural areas that people live in and they're spread out and they're not right on top of each other. So I don't think the distribution centers are necessarily going to be like places people live, but they're definitely going to be places people work.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do wish they would come out with like smaller towns, stuff like that. We obviously have the derelict or not derelict anymore, but the new settlements they just released. They have like the duster gangs and stuff there with people walking around. They have some shops, they have bars. But still it's like it's very shanty town feeling. It's not like, a normal citizen that works in microtech is, living a few kilometers away and commuting to microtech for work. It's nothing like that, So I don't think the distribution centers are the answer to that, but they do look really cool.
They do look really cool, and I think there's still a piece of these planets feeling more fleshed out, more alive, right? So we start with the landing zones, we get bunkers, we get settlements. Now we're getting distribution centers. Later on, we're going to be getting base building, right? And so as all of these things start to stack up, we will start to see more and more locations added. But like we were just saying, still so much of the planets just feel unpopulated. But that'll change over time. And again, distribution centers, I think, are a step in that direction. And keep in mind too, right? Like we just said, it's not going to be the size of like a New Babbage or anything like that. But these are going to be big enough locations to where they're going to have roads, which is kind of interesting. They're going to have, sizable infrastructure to them. So
yeah,
it's not going to be like we're just getting sprinkled with a couple more little bunkers here and there.
I do think
I'm excited for these.
I do think they might eventually go back and change, like, the Shubing mining facilities, the places you go land and can repair, refuel, whatever. You have box missions that send you there. I think eventually they might go back and like redo those more similar to maybe like how the Pyro outposts are looking, because right now it's just some prefabricated like 3 or 4 buildings just sat down around a landing pad or whatever, and there's that one guy working there, but they have like, beds and all that stuff in it. So I would like to see those become more alive and varied also. But the distribution centers are going to be huge. And if I'm thinking correctly, they're not the same thing as the updated bunkers they've been talking about, because I don't know how long ago it was, but several months ago, if not longer, in the ISC, they talked about updating the underground bunkers, to where like they're these massive facilities and not just one level. And we saw them I think they were in gray box already when they showed them off. So I hope they aren't the same thing. I hope we have the distribution centers and the upgraded bunkers at some point, because yeah, they're kind of more of the same thing. You know, you have like, it's odd that you have this whole facility and it's only one little building with one elevator entrance. But then you like, you know, down below you have all those doors that go to other areas that are closed off and shit like that. So yeah, it's stuff that makes it feel more realistic, I guess, instead of just, you know, for gameplay. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, just more fleshed out.
Yeah. I hope we see both of those. And hopefully they're not replacing what they were going to do with the bunkers with the distribution centers.
No, I would imagine it would be an in addition to thing,
Yeah.
right? Because if you want to add more variety to your locations, I think it makes sense to keep the current bunkers as well, and then yeah, just sort of retroactively flesh them out a bit more, vary them a bit more. But you know, I certainly wouldn't just abandon them. To me, right, as they continue to flesh out the different gameplay loops, and when it comes to the mercenary stuff, like there's that sense of progression, right? You start off doing bunkers, and you get the lower tier paying bunker missions, and you work your way up to the higher tier paying bunker missions. And then once you get past those, then you get onto the distribution center missions and can work your way up and pay from there. You know, what do they do after distribution centers? They could go, there could be a third higher tier than that as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot they can play around with as far as scaling things up go. And that is one of the, you know, we were just talking about planets maybe feeling a little empty, but by that same virtue, that's one of the nice things about having these mostly empty planets is they're just these massive canvases that they can add so much to over time.
Yeah. Especially with player bases and stuff, that'll probably also fill out a lot of those empty spaces, and who knows how big,
man, let us
how big
do
they're
a lot
gonna
of that work.
Yeah, who knows how big they're gonna allow like orgs to build. You know, maybe they'll let them build cities, not like the size of Loreville, but you know, maybe a sizable piece of land can be turned into like a player populated area. So
Yeah,
that could be another thing to flesh them out too.
like maybe you can't build your own New York City, right? But maybe you could build your own Winston-Salem. You know,
There you go.
a little smaller
Yeah.
scale. Yeah. So he also mentioned a bunch of new and updated vehicles coming to the game as well. I don't know. It seems like it's gonna be a big RSI year next year.
Yeah.
We've been talking about that. And so, you know, Jared's just adding more fuel to that hype fire, I think, teasing that we're
Yeah.
gonna get, what was it? It was like 6 new vehicles or something like that within the first half.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right.
It was something that it worked out to like an average of basically like a new vehicle a month, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
Which, you know, I'm sure we'll actually get them 2 or 3 at a time, but still.
Yeah, they'll probably come out like with a patch or something. So we'll probably get 2 or 3 first patch, 2 or 3 the next patch, and so on and so forth. But yeah, they're definitely ramping up their vehicle production this coming year, and I hope we see that Galaxy and base building.
Would be nice.
Yeah,
It would be real nice. Maybe they can by the end of the year. I don't think that's going to be. I mean, because Jared doesn't even mention base building. They've said that the production for it's not even really going to start until Q1. Oh man, I don't know. Can you turn around and get a tier 0 base building out within the same calendar year?
last week when we spoke with Skyrider, he seemed pretty optimistic about them getting it out with the with production ramping up back in the PU. But I think it's one of those things where, you know, like you can throw as many people as you want at it, but it's still going to take time. And you can only have so many people working on one ship or one concept or whatever.
Yeah, otherwise you're just stumbling over each other and screwing up each other's work and bumping into. Yeah, so many issues can come from too many cooks in the kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't pay a lot of attention to the progress tracker, but I don't think we've seen a ship the size of the Carrack or Galaxy go through production in less than a year. So
yeah, I can't think of anything.
Maybe they can pull it off if they have all of these, assets that they've had to make for the Polaris or whatever, and they can copy and paste a bunch of that over to the Galaxy. But still, I don't know, man. I want to be optimistic about it, but I don't think we're going to see base building next year. If we do, it'll be at the end of next year, and it'll be a very, tier 0 implementation, maybe with, like you were saying, small buildings, maybe 1 or 2 like ground vehicles that can build them, and then they add up from there.
Yeah. It would be nice if we could at least get, the smallest of small buildings in by the end of the year, but I'm not going to hold my breath for it. Super excited for it, and I'm glad that it's starting development next year, but I doubt we get our hands on it. And if we do, it'll probably be, maybe like on a preview channel at the end of the year. Like, I don't think there's no way it hits live PU.
Put it on a beam, Chris.
Not next year.
Build my building with a beam. Let's do it.
Now, see, if they wanted to do it like they did structural salvaging, then yes, maybe we will get base building at the end of next year. Shoot a beam and up pops a shack out of the ground. But yeah, and then, so I'm gonna skip over Pyro right now. We'll get back to Pyro. Pyro is the big thing for the first half of next year. New quantum travel is going to be making its way in. Speaking of Pyro, I do think that probably actually does come with 4.0. Maybe they put it in earlier. Like it certainly wouldn't hurt, but I could see them adding onto the hype of the new quantum travel is like, oh yeah, by the way, when this new way it works comes out, you can do it straight to Pyro. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Those two things could go hand in hand, but at the same time, like if it happens to be ready to go for Q1, great, because we could definitely still use it in Stanton.
Yeah, it might be part of master modes.
Oh yeah, that'd be fantastic. Fantastic. But we've already talked about the star map, and we've all had cases except for one guy in a Facebook comment section somewhere that's just never had an issue with the star map. But we've all had issues with setting routes and that sort of thing. And with that coming next year, that's super exciting. But if we'll recall, if people remember when they talked about the new ways to quantum travel, one of those included the quantum boost, to where we're not having to set a route. Instead, you're just pointing your ship in a direction and then able to quantum boost in that direction.
That'll be cool.
So it's so cool because it makes sense that we would be able to do it. We haven't been able to. Yeah. So there's that. And then also, the custom quantum markers will be coming with that as well, right? To where you could set a waypoint that can be shared by the whole party, or you could maybe even use that stuff to sell information for location of valuable minables or whatever it is that people end up using the new quantum markers for. So many different options and so much to be excited about. It really does feel like the game's just becoming more and more complete, and it feels like we're finally getting some really sizable puzzle pieces coming together. And I know quantum jump and quantum boost and all that stuff, it's only specific to travel. But once again, whether you're combat, whether you're trading or crafting or whatever the fuck you're doing, you're traveling in Star Citizen, you're going to have to quantum at some point. So,
yep.
New HUD and MFD updates, similar to the UI updates that we've talked about before. It's needed. make things easier to read in the game, easier to see in the game. I'm always going to be for that, making things just look neater and more conducive to where I'm able to spend more time directly thinking about the gameplay I'm engaging with, instead of hoping I can find the information somewhere on the screen somewhere, and then I can start to react to what's happening once I get that extra bit. Just keep cleaning it up, and they seem to be doing a good job with that. So I can't wait to get the new MFTs and HUD updates.
My favorite part of that was where you could cast certain MFDs to your visor.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a ship that only has 2 MFDs in your view or whatever, you can take a third MFD information that you can't normally see and cast it to your visor, so it's like up in the top left or whatever, and then look at it that way. Or if you want to have it up there where it's at eye level or whatever, instead of having to glance down at it, you can put it up there if that's what you want. So that was one of the biggest things for me with the new HUD and stuff, was just being able to customize stuff like that, especially since we have several ships that only have 1 or 2 things to give you information.
It's almost like the Star Citizen equivalent of getting a second or third computer monitor.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got more options. I can have Discord up here in my top left or whatever if I want.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be good. Just making the game easier to look at, right? Resource management. They've talked about the resource management stuff coming at CitizenCon most recently. This is going to touch every part of the game they've talked about, right? This is going to be another one of those updates where, again, it doesn't matter what kind of player you are. This is something to be looking forward to for next year.
Yeah, it's really going to change up multi-crew and how people use larger ships 100%. Like the days of loading up your character solo and being able to do whatever you want might be long gone. I could see some people maybe moving around their fleets a little bit, maybe switching up for smaller ships if they don't have enough friends. Resource management is going to change a lot, and it's probably one of my most looked forward to features for next year, because I am very much into multi-crew gameplay, and I think that's just going to push most players in that direction.
Yeah, which is, this is another thing we've talked about, right? And Star Citizen isn't completely unique in this respect, but a lot of times when you get these MMO style games, a ton of people are showing up for that social aspect, right? For interacting and making friends and grouping up and playing through the game together and just having a good time with other people. But there are players that prefer to play in online environments solo. So I still want those players to be accounted for, but those players are also going to have to start to reckon with, just because you want to play solo, you can play the game solo, but that character's going to struggle if it's just you, right? Maybe you need something that is just a one-person cruise ship. You can still play. You're just a bit more limited. I don't know, man. Like, I think them getting the NPC, like AI crew balancing right, I think that's going to be important for those solo players as well. But I before any of that stuff comes online, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of people taking a look and go, you know what, the Idris is really cool, and I had the money to throw at it or whatever, but now as this game is coming more and more together, it's starting to look like I'm not going to enjoy that Idris by myself. So instead, maybe I melt it and get a bunch of single pilot ships instead. There's probably somebody making that decision out there. But yeah, resource management is going to be a game changer, and is something that people they're going to have to be aware of for next year, because again, it's going to be one of those big seismic shifts.
Yeah, all of these things we've mentioned so far, even without Pyro, it's going to feel like a Star Citizen 2.0, because almost every aspect of the game is getting touched on next year in the first half, seemingly. So by this time next year, we could be, having a whole different experience than what we are now.
I think we will be. And again, it's just gonna. I think sometimes it's, and I've said this, I think maybe even on this episode, but I think sometimes using phrasing like it's gonna feel like a different game, like can sometimes be overhyped or exaggerated, but it's still gonna feel like Star Citizen next year, but it's just gonna feel more complete. It's gonna feel more like the game that we've had in our heads versus what we've actually had in our hands. It's a really exciting time, and we haven't even talked about hacking yet, which supposedly is also coming first half of next year. So get your Legionnaires ready.
Yeah, I hope that moves over to. They talk about e-warfare a lot, right? So
Yeah,
they haven't really elaborated on what e-warfare is going to be. Obviously, hacking is probably going to be part of that. But I wonder if this is going to be a Legionnaire only thing, or if, when you go to clear your crime stat, are you going to have to hack something first? Is the Herald, is the MSR, what is it? The Sentinel is the e-warfare version of the Vanguard. Anyway, are those ships going to get, e-warfare hacking abilities or whatever, or will it just be the Legionnaire? So I definitely want to hear more about hacking.
Yeah, me too. I don't think they would keep it to just the one ship. I would like to see hacking come in to where part of it is when we think about our ship loadouts, and if we wanted to go with ballistic weapons or energy-based weapons, that sort of thing. Imagine if you were in a ship where you could hack somebody's weapon systems and not maybe completely shut them down, but maybe it's a hack to where if they're using energy-based weapons, their damage output is reduced by like 20%, like a debuff. Whereas a ship that doesn't have energy weapons, instead they went ballistic. Yeah, they've got that limited ammo pool, but they're not, vulnerable to that hacking in the same way that the ship with the repeaters would be, right?
Yeah.
So things like that, or being able to manipulate people's shield health. Like I don't want it to be where, all right, you've got somebody playing the hacking mini game, whatever that is, where they're going through the mini game, and then 30 seconds later, just boom, instantly, all right, this enemy ship shields are just down to 0%. Don't really want that, but I would like to see, again, similar to like the energy weapons, like maybe you can debuff somebody's shields a little bit to where they can take 10% less damage or whatever. I think you can play around with it like that. I think you could, God, dude, you could mess with people's engines. There's so many different things that we could potentially hack into with ships, to change the dynamics of a fight.
I wonder if with hacking there will be anti-hacking. So what if you're on an Idris and there's a Legionnaire coming up trying to hack your airlock? Is there anything you can do to make them not able to do that? Is there some other mini game on the other side of this that you have to fight other hackers from screwing up your ship or whatever they're doing?
Right.
So that could be cool.
One ship's trying to hack the other, so they get into a little game of like Zoom call rock paper scissors with each other.
Yeah, I don't know how it would work, but I could see them maybe coming up with some sort of mini game where one person has to do something faster or more efficient than the other person to prevent it or hack through.
Where it's like a race to see who can get through the mini game first.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
Yeah, something like that. Or maybe it'll be who can press F the quickest. Maybe it'll be people setting up macros to press F really quick and override the hack.
Yeah, they just haven't been very specific with hacking gameplay. Like we know a little bit coming with the Legionnaire, like with boarding and hacking into people's airlocks or whatever. But in a broader sense, they've not given us a lot to work with. So, but supposedly we'll be seeing at least the introduction of it next year in the first half. All right, so the big elephant in the room, 4.0 Pyro. Sounds like they're currently targeting summer. First of all, it goes without saying, massive update to the game, right? But do we think they hit that summer goal, or do you think it gets pushed out of the first half of 2024?
Man, I don't know. I mean, they seem pretty confident about it, but they've also seemed pretty confident about it before.
They have, yeah.
So we keep saying Pyro for Christmas, so maybe it'll be Christmas next year. I don't know. I hope it's before next Christmas, but yeah, I just don't want them.
It would be kind of funny though.
It would be. But I don't want them to release it in a half-assed state, just to get it out, you know? Like, the preview channel only had 3 planets you could go to. The size of the system was shrunk down. So players haven't even experienced half of Pyro yet, even that got to play the preview channel. So, yeah, I just don't want it to come in half-baked or anything. They need to bring it in. Jump points need to be working. All the stations and planets need to be available. The reputation needs to be working for all the gangs. So they I don't know. Like, I thought it was pretty much done in the bag, you know, last Christmas. I thought it was like, Pyro is done. They're ready to send it. All we need is server meshing. But after the preview channel, I was like, I don't know. It looks like it wasn't all as finished as we thought it was. So I think they have some work left. But it's hard to tell, man.
I'm gonna make the prediction. Not necessarily that it's Christmas. I do think 4.0 hits 2024, but I think it's second half. I think they missed the summer window.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see it on a preview channel. Yeah. I could see it on we're obviously getting the preview channel sometime early next year. And they'll probably, keep doing tests for that. But I could see us having it maybe on like a PTU or something by next summer. But I'm not going to count on it being here. But even if it's not here, like I said earlier, if we get all of these updates, besides Pyro, I still think it's going to be a killer year for Star Citizen. So I'm not banking on Pyro having to be done for it to be a good year, but hopefully it is, and hopefully it's really well done when they release it, all things ready to go.
You just mentioned PTU, which just made me remember we still have to have a 4.0 PTU, right? Like, so we've not even got past the part of having Pyro preview channel tests to get to the PTU, to where 4.0 is probably going to have to bake in PTU for at least 3 or 4 months, if I had to guess.
Right.
And again, no developer whatsoever, just gut feeling based off of how long other updates have had to cook in the PTU in the past. Maybe we get a summer PTU, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe it hits PTU late summer and stays there through the winter, and fuck it, maybe we do get a Christmas. You know what? I take it all back. Christmas 2024, 4.0 is hitting. I'm calling it this time, and I'm sticking to my guns. I don't care if it's fucking July and it feels like Pyro is about to come out tomorrow. I'm still going to be saying, nope, not until Christmas, Q4. I'm saying it right now. I'm sticking to it. Fuck it.
I mean, you might not be too far off there because, like you just said, it's probably going to take several months of testing. So as hopeful as I want to be, I definitely could see another Q4 release for 4.0 next year, which I won't necessarily be disappointed with, as long as they take the time to get it ready to go when it's going to go.
Yeah, and in the meantime, so many of these other features can still be making their way into the game. The FPS stuff, the star map stuff, the quantum stuff, the UI, the Moby Glass, the EVA. So many of the different features that we've talked about today and haven't talked about today can make their way into the game without Pyro. Everybody's excited for, well, not everybody. Most people are excited for Pyro, seemingly, that are interested in Star Citizen. We all want it to get here. But if it does end up slipping from summer, that doesn't mean that Q1 and Q2, Q3 of 2024 can't still be awesome and full of plenty of good stuff.
This is just, like Jared said, this is just the first half of the year.
Exactly. So, we'll see what ends up happening, obviously, because we're not living in the future right now. But like I said, even if Pyro doesn't make it in summer, it's still going to be a really good first half, I think, just based off of everything else that they've talked about.
Yeah.
And there's still the Starcloth updates on the way too. Saving the best for last. I guess maybe that's whatever. Maybe they'll save the Starcloth updates until 4.0 is ready. I take it back.
Definitely.
Yeah, not gonna see any of that anytime soon. So we've also got a leak listed on our agenda for today. You want to tell us a little bit about what's floating around out there?
Yeah, so most people here listening are probably familiar with the Pipeline Discord. They get information from the some people working at CIG, some people with inside information. Anyway, if you care about spoilers, it's just a future ship that could be coming out. But if you care about spoilers, tune out for a few minutes. But they're talking about a Mirai heavy fighter. So before at CitizenCon, they showed off all of the silhouettes of some ships that might be coming next year. And up until this past week, somebody had roughly did a little outline sketch drawing of it. But here we have a full render for anybody watching on YouTube, a full render of the Mirai heavy fighter here. And it looks pretty big.
It does. It looks beefy.
Yeah.
Which heavy fighter, that makes sense. But yeah, it looks like a really stout ship.
Yeah. You see the two little people standing down there. I'm trying to gauge what kind of size it might be. I'm thinking a little bigger than a Vanguard. It's taller, not as long, but
right.
Yeah, it's definitely a beefy ship.
Yeah. I like the look of it.
Yeah, the Mirai design language is really cool. I'm not typically I have been liking heavy fighters a little bit more that I've playing with the Ion and Inferno. I've never really liked the Vanguard series. I've tried flying them before. They're just not my thing, but this thing looks really cool.
Yeah, I'm a fan of how it's looking, and just sort of zooming in a bit. Got one, two. I'm seeing two guns. Is that it?
I'm sure there's more in there.
Wings?
Yeah, I see those two, but yeah, we don't know what kind of. That could be in a landed state or have the weapons drawn back or something, but it's not something I'm just going to go out and buy, but it does look cool, and I'm sure it's going to be a beast of a ship if it flies anything like the Furies do.
Yeah, and it does. It also kind of looks like. You think maybe the wings will open up sort of vertically?
Maybe. I feel like it's going to be kind of like the Mirai, where the four little spindles there, whatever you want to call them, when it's in landed mode, they're kind of collapsed and forward a little bit more. And then when you go into like landing gear up and everything, they kind of like pull back and widen a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think it might have that type of movement to it, but I don't know if they'll like, open all the way up or anything.
Yeah. But either way, just based off of this one image, what a neat looking ship.
It's one of those new, I don't know if we'll see it in the first half, but one of those new ships coming next year for sure.
Might be under the Christmas tree in just a few days. Who knows?
Never know. But yeah, we don't do, our thing here isn't specifically leaks or anything, but just something neat to talk about.
Yeah, and that name, if it does end up being called the Guardian, is that seems to read to me like it's meant to take some damage, right? Like to be a really tanky ship, more so than, not saying it won't have firepower. I'm sure that it will, but just going off of that name, I'm seeing it more of a tank role than like a DPS role necessarily.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
In Star
Yeah,
Citizen or
it looks,
not, but you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, for sure. But that's all for the pipeline leaks this week. Not a whole lot going on towards the end of the year here, but a little something for you before we head out for the holidays.
Yeah, you know what is going on? 322's going on right now. You'll be checking that out. The preview channel's going on right now with Replication Layer. You can be checking that out. Right. There's the Luminalia. Again, make sure that you're logging into the RSI website and claiming those rewards if you haven't already. But yeah, as far as any other like gameplay features being added, we're done for the rest of the year, folks. We're gonna have to wait until 2024 for that, as well as more content from Jared on the Star Citizen YouTube channel with ISC and SEL. Those will be coming back next year as well. And so will CommLink. So we're going to be taking next week off. We're going to enjoy the holidays and spend some time with friends, family, that sort of thing, and return. Let's see. Yeah, it should be the first week of January. We'll be back. So 1 week off, and we'll be back with the podcast. We'll be back with reaction videos, and just to keep people in the loop of what we're planning for next year. We still want to try to do the podcast weekly, if at all possible, with the exception of things like next week where it's a major holiday, that sort of thing. And we want to continue to do the reaction videos that we've been doing, both with new videos going up, like for example, like an ISC that's of particular interest, but also going into those deep dives into the archives, looking at older videos from behind the scenes of Squadron 42. I think we're going to, over the course of next year, we'll end up probably taking a look at some of the 10 for the Chairman videos, for example. Like there's so much old stuff on the Star Citizen YouTube channel that's really interesting to go back and do these reactions. And we've scratched the surface with that stuff. So more of that coming next year. Of course, we'll continue to cover news. We also want to have more guests on the podcast as well. So the CommLink podcast YouTube channel is going to be, it's going to stay active throughout 2024. And there will most likely be other things too that we're not at a point to talk about yet. But as we come up with ideas and they start to solidify, we'll share that with you. But at the very least, more podcast episodes, more reaction videos, more guests, and more Star Citizen talk, baby. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I have a ton of fun doing this every week, and I don't see any reason for us to stop. So I think next year should be a good year for Star Citizen, and hopefully a good year for our podcast, getting people on and tuning in. And if anybody's made it this far in the episode, thank you so much for tuning in. We have been having our videos not pop up in searches a whole lot. So if you're here and you like our content, please subscribe, hit that notification bell, because you might not be seeing our videos otherwise.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, like, you hear people on YouTube say that stuff all the time, and it's for a reason. It's how the algorithm works, right? So if you're liking, if you're subscribed, if you're leaving a comment, all of that stuff is going to help more people see our content as well. So it's just the name of the game. So hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell, turn on notifications, and leave a comment with what your thoughts are on the first half of 2024 next year for Star Citizen. Do you think Pyro is going to make it in time for summer? Are you really looking forward to the Star Map update, the EVA update, the character customization, the distribution center? So much stuff is coming, right? Updates to FPS weapons are on the way. New UI updates. There's so much happening in the first half of 2024. What are you looking forward to the most? Sound off down below. Let us know. And as always, thanks so much for checking out our show. This is one of those things where we did this because we love Star Citizen and we love talking about it and we love thinking about the game and speculating and keeping up with all the major updates as they're happening and checking out some of the leaks and the rumors that are circulating around it. Star Citizen is just so much fun to talk and think about. That doing this made sense. And so the fact that there are those of you that have tuned in and have subscribed and are going on this journey with us, just it's so awesome. Thank you so much. And we're a small channel, but we're looking forward to growing with all of you, and looking forward to seeing what Chris has in store for us in 2024 and beyond. So, and we hope that you stick with CommLink for this journey.
Yeah, wanted to make new friends, meet new people, get the community together. So that's what it's all about.
Yep, absolutely. In the meantime, everybody, happy holidays. Stay safe. We'll see you in the new year. Happy New Year, by the way. It might even be New Year's Day by the time you're listening to this. Who knows? But regardless of what day it is, hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're being safe. Silvius, this was a blast as always. And I'll see you in the new year, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Have a happy and safe holidays, and we hope to see you back here again next year.
Don't forget at CommLink Pod on Twitter/X and Instagram as well. You can follow us there. Check it out. Link, subscribe, notify. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Happy New Year.